I've got a day off work today, and usually I'll go out and I'll make a couple videos just in parks or whatever outside, just some kind of talking, rambling videos. I've been doing that somewhat regularly for a little while. I'll just crank out a couple of them at a time, and then I'll just schedule them all to upload over the next couple weeks. And I've just been getting kind of bored of doing those types of videos. I don't think that I really articulate myself very well in them, even though they're on topics of things that are of interest to me. I'm just trying to diversify a little bit and get back into making some vlogs, just some daily life type stuff. It works out today because it's pretty rainy. It's going to be kind of raining all day, so not a great time to be out trying to make these outside videos. So I've got, so many books that I haven't read. A lot of them are just kind of like art books or coffee table books, just things you're not going to read straight through. It's just something to kind of flip through. And I'm trying to get back into just, casual interests. So I think today would be a good day just to kind of just bop around at home and see what I can get into. You can see the bookshelves here, and I've probably read less than probably a quarter of these. I used to be in the habit of reading at night in bed, and I would get through a lot of stuff that way, just reading a little bit at a time, and I kind of fell out of that habit after a little while. I'm trying to just read a little bit more during the day. Why did they make the switch on this in the worst location?
I know.
Me too. It hasn't rained in a while.
No. If anything, we got a little bit of flurries or something. Plus, I don't like a cold rain, but I like a medium to warm rain.
Yeah.
If it's 35 and raining, it's the worst. That's my least favorite kind of weather. 45 and above rain is the best kind of rain. Because before then, why not just be snow? Just be colder. No one wants a cold rain.
You sound like you're doing Miss Congeniality. We're gonna crank it up. That means I can feel something today. It's a new flavor, Midnight Cola. How do you feel about that?
Cola flavored things, they're always lying.
I know. It just sounds like a very off brand something you find. It's supposed to be a healthier alternative to just Coke, but it's like sweetened with monk fruit or something.
Oh, I hate monk fruit so much.
It doesn't taste too bad, but it's definitely not carbonated enough, so it tastes a little bit
That's
like
the
a
whole
flat
point.
Coke,
If I want a Coca-Cola, I want it to sting the back of my throat of how carbonated and sugary it is.
I'm gonna try and not drop a scoopful of this in the stove I just cleaned. Adding the worst egg ever on top. Most of it's burnt to the pan. Perfectly round. So as you can tell from the living room, there's not really enough space for a coffee table here. I mean, I think we could swing it, but a lot of times we're just sitting on the floor, and I don't really want to take up this entire area with just a coffee table. So for coffee table books, we set up this little tree, whatever. I think it's called a tree book stand, but whatever. This guy over here fits just on our TV stand over in the corner, and the goal of this was just to have a couple more books out in the open. They're not all just kind of put away on our bedroom bookshelves. and you know, just stuff like you might have on a coffee table that you could just kind of pick out and casually read, or you know, if there's any novels or anything, maybe just a couple of those that we're more actively reading through. And I figured I'd just go through these today, maybe flip through a couple of them, maybe replace some of them, and just see what's on the old shelf. Now, most of these are not mine, so I don't really have too much to say about them. These are my partner's for the most part. She's the Stardew Valley player, but I can still flip through these a little bit just to show. I think this book is very aesthetic. I like the art. You know, it's all just information about the game, which I don't really know much about, but I really like the vibe of it, and I like watching her play it. And I just like just the fonts of things are fun. It all has kind of like a little, almost like a sketchbook or handwriting type feel. You know, just these like drawn portraits of the characters. It's not even just using their pixel art from the game. This kind of stuff, especially for somebody who like kind of knows about the game but not really any type of in-depth elements of it, it's kind of fun just to see all of these lists of things in here. The Bone Sword, Obsidian Edge, Lava Katana, Galaxy Hammer, locations in the games, lists of stocks of stores, got character likes and dislikes. I always liked Krobus. I don't really know much about him. He's just a weird little shadow guy that lives in the sewers. Yeah, there's just some more like written out type pages about you know, growing relationships between the characters, how to propose, what you'll need, 5,000 gold, 10 hearts, your first house upgrade. I'm glad we don't need that in real life, because I don't have an unupgraded house, much less an upgraded one, so I think I might just be out of luck for life on that. You know, you got nice art of the tools, tool upgrades, the crops, you know, farm animals. I just think it's like a really cute little book that also seems very informative. We got a whole list of hats, a chicken mask, a cool cap. I don't know what makes it cool. It's just kind of a pale blue. Got a blue cowboy hat, which I would say is a cooler hat. We got Emily's magic hat, which seems even cooler. We got the good old cap and the governor's hat. I hope that this has been stolen from the governor. That was a cool page. Mysterious Walnut Room. Christmas Carol, again, this is Miranda's book. I think she might have finished this, but it's a pretty short one. I think I've read this as a kid before, but maybe if I haven't read the actual book, you know, I feel like pretty commonly known story. There's a lot of good, or I don't know if there's a lot of good ones. There's a lot of movie adaptations. I really like the Muppets Christmas Carol. I try and watch that every year, every Christmas. And I didn't this year for some reason. And I thought maybe I should just try and watch it post-Christmas, sometime still in the winter. It's now the end of February. I still haven't watched it. It feels like it might be past the time. I think I might just feel a little bit sad if I watched it now. Two Towers, again, Miranda's book. I do like Lord of the Rings, but I have not read the books. I've listened to some of these on audiobook with her when we were on road trips, which is very calming. I enjoy that. I don't know if I'm ever gonna actually just try and read straight through these, because I know, you know, kind of the broader story from the movies, so it is kind of fun just to flip through, you know, see if it's a part I recognize, but now I'm just seeing, you know, what's really going on in the text. Nausicaa. I've seen this movie, the movie of this manga, a couple times. Haven't read through it, and there's a lot going on in the movies. It feels very fast-paced. There's a lot of just details crammed in. It would be nice to read through the manga and just have everything be expanded a lot more that they didn't have time for in the movies. From what little I know about the manga version is that there's just a lot more details and kind of more explored elements of kind of like side characters and side plots and things like that. And I do like fantasy stuff, but a lot of times I'm just not in the mood for it, and I don't know, I kind of feel like I'm gonna have to just be in the mood to really get into this and read through it. So that's why I haven't really started, but just looking through, I like the art a lot. You know, I liked the art of the movie, but just seeing it drawn is very cool. I really like the style of, I'm sure there's some artistic technique this is actually called, but just these sketchy pen lines. You know, there's just lots of lines that kind of show shading and details of things. It has that kind of like sketchbook style. It almost seems like not that serious. It doesn't feel super polished, which I like. It just feels like somebody kind of just drew these out in their sketchbook or something like that. Again, another book on the easily accessible shelf that I still have not even started, but you know, I think I might get into this because I like just looking through it. It's the book of the ultimate book, not just the book, ultimate book of lighthouses. We got history, legend, lore, design, technology, and romance for some reason. Now, this is so far the only book that I actually bought on here. I got this from a used bookstore that I actually used to work at, but I bought this before I worked there. And then I worked there for a little bit and I hated it so much, and I quit as soon as I could, and I didn't go back there for 2 years because I hated it so much. And I actually just went back there for the first time the other day, and I saw some people that I used to work with, and that felt kind of weird. I don't think anyone recognized me. Unrelated to that, that's where the book came from before all of that. This just felt like such a nice coffee table book. Just, you know, this seems like something that I would find in like my grandma's house or something. I was never really into going to the beach very much as a kid, and or as an adult. Not that I have time to do it anymore. I think it's just because, you know, it was always just a summer thing, and you know, it's just so hot there. I don't really like swimming. Now as an adult, the few times I'm able to go down to the beach, it's always been in the fall or winter, and I actually much prefer that. Some more like overcast days, I think are really nice. And anyway, I just feel like these lighthouses, a lot of these seem more gloomier. I say gloomier in a positive way. Just getting this book, flipping through, has made me more interested in just visiting some of these places with the lighthouses, which might be some of the same places or same areas that, you know, I would go to as a kid but didn't really appreciate. You know, there's a lot of North Carolina lighthouses. I haven't been to hardly any of them. The only one I definitely remember going to was in Bald Head Island, which is just a very small island off the coast of North Carolina. I liked going there. I think it's I don't know if it's still in use, that one. I think it's part of a museum now, but you could, you know, climb up the stairs to the top. I think being a lighthouse keeper feels very aesthetic. You know, I know I'm kind of romanticizing it. I don't know if I would actually like that job because you know, you probably have to just live out kind of remotely. You know, some of these, like here, you know, you would be in a house or something near the lighthouse to man it. I don't know if some of these are maybe a little bit more built in, like there's a place to stay in the lighthouse. A lot of these look a little bit too thin for that. But some of them, like this, are a little bit more built in to the house, it looks like. It's just kind of fun just to explore the world a little bit. You know, I'm not really going to be able to visit all of these places, but I think, you know, in a very small way, it just gives me a little better perspective on the world. I think it's really easy just to get so stuck in a very narrow mindset in the world, or rather in your, you know, local area. Just everything you see is just right in your zone, and you know, you're not really looking at places outside of that. It just makes the world feel very small and kind of disconnected. It's nice to just flip through a book like this and, you know, just find a picture that appeals to you, and, you know, just read a little bit about it, and you don't have to get anything out of it or remember the information. There's not going to be a test on it later, but it's just nice to see things in the world that exist that I'm not just going to see in my regular life. Now that's a dirty one. This is one of Miranda's books as well. She likes this author a lot. He did Gegege no Kitaro, and has a lot of just yokai informational books and just a lot of yokai art and influence in his stuff. I think the art of these is interesting because, you know, manga is it's not an old art form, but, you know, it's been going on for, you know, 60, 70 years, I believe. And Mizuki had a lot of, he was a big pioneer in some of the earlier days. I think it's cool to read these older ones, and it actually just looks a lot more similar to an older cartoon, or like an older, you know, like a newspaper comic or something that I would read here in the US, or just, you know, coming out of the West. So I think it's cool, stuff like this. There's just even more of a similarity to stuff that I read here growing up. This looks like, maybe his name's Snowrunt. He's a Pokemon. He's just a little triangle guy, lives in the snow. I think it's fun to see the design choices behind some Pokemon. You know, a lot of them are based on animals, but there are some that are based on yokai. Next up, Wabi Sabi by Beth Kempton. Something I had briefly flipped through. Again, this is one of Miranda's. I don't really like how it doesn't really open. I mean, it's it's hardback, but you can see it's just kind of straight, sticks straight up. I think Miranda has read through all of this. I have flipped through a little bit. Wabi Sabi is an intuitive response to beauty that reflects the true nature of life. Wabi Sabi is an acceptance and appreciation of the impermanent, imperfect, and incomplete nature of everything. Wabi Sabi is a recognition of the gifts of simple, slow, and natural living. Now, stuff like this in, you know, more modern days, and by modern I just mean maybe the last 10 years or so, everything just feels like it's a video essay on YouTube. I might just kind of passively find a video about that I'll, you know, maybe listen to while I'm walking or on the way to work. Something gets lost, I think. And even when it's a video, you know, there's audio elements, visual elements, they're showing, you know, like pictures, and whereas this book, as you can see, it's pretty much all just text. You know, stuff like that in these videos, I think it just really gets lost in a way that reading, it doesn't. I think it's just because, you know, we're conditioned so much these days just to be entirely passive. When you're just watching or listening to it, it's so much easier to just let your mind wander and you don't really have to pay attention. But when you're reading it, and it can just be all the same information, it's more active. At least that's how I feel. You kind of have to choose to focus on it and pay attention. I feel like I do get a lot more out of it when I am reading. I think it's just that kind of intention to focus and pay attention to this thing. I feel like I actually learn it a little bit better. Next up, we got Zelda Majora's Mask manga. Another one of Miranda's, although I have flipped through this a little bit. Majora's Mask is one of the Zelda games I played a little bit as a kid, but I don't think we ever owned. I think I just remember renting this for a couple days at a time from Blockbuster back in the day. And I think this manga is just the entire story. So, you know, you can see how short it is. So yeah, it's definitely very condensed. I think one of the appeals of the game is, you know, this is definitely like more of a darker world and story, but something about just those like earlier, you know, polygon 3D graphics that a lot of Nintendo 64 games had. It just had like an even creepier, more unsettling quality that I think really amplified the setting of this game. You know, just looking at the Happy Mask Salesman here, you know, he's still like a little bit creepy looking, but it doesn't match the game. He just feels like he's like really tall. He's just very hunched over. He's got this like crazy smile, and he's just all in this like kind of dark area. You're talking to him, the camera's doing some like weird close-ups on his face. Just kind of has a creepy atmosphere that I think is kind of lost, and but there's just a little bit more. I think it's just like a more like childlike art style, which is also cool. It's just different. Fluent Forever by Gabriel Weiner. This is a book that I've read through. So this book is kind of, I have mixed feelings about. There's not anything especially negative about this, and this guy is able to relatively quickly learn several languages. You know, just seems to have methods that, you know, make things stick. So as somebody who has been struggling to learn Japanese for several years now with, you know, very slow results, mostly due to my own just inconsistent studying, you know, this kind of book appealed to me. I thought maybe I could read this and see, you know, just find some more better ways to study and memorize things. The thing about this is that it seems very focused on Latin-based languages, which, you know, of course are already going to be much easier as an English speaker, you know, these languages that are the most similar to the one that I already speak. Another thing about this is there's a lot of words in here, but kind of the main thing I got out of this book is just that this whole thing just feels like it's an ad for Anki, which is a program that uses a spaced repetition system, which is, you know, just a method for learning and memorization, where flashcards, which, you know, feels like kind of a derivative term for it, but, you know, it'll show you information on one side, there's something on the other side, you have to, you know, make sure you know it, what's on the other side, check yourself, you know, if you don't know it, that card will start showing up more often. If you do know it, it will show up less often. It'll get pushed further back. It's supposed to ideally show up again just before you forget it again, and that kind of helps strengthen the memories of things. So, you know, if you're forgetting it, it'll show up more often until it's able to just get further and further back. Anyway, it's a system that I've used to study for a long time, and, you know, I definitely think that's a good method, but I don't think you need an entire book that's basically just saying use Anki, or basically use a spaced repetition system of some kind to memorize things, and also practice speaking, more specifically shadowing native speakers, as in, you know, just trying to exactly mimic the way that they say things, not just kind of practicing on your own in the void, but, you know, specifically like studying the details of pronunciation, that kind of thing. So those are kind of like the two main points of this. So, you know, it was all good information, but I feel like I really just got, those are the two main things I got out of it, which I already kind of knew anyway, so, you know, I don't know if I actually learned too much. Got the Lonely Planet Japan book. Little bits of information about just different areas, history of places, some like photography, things to do. So one way you can use it is flipping through, and this is divided into different areas of Japan. You know, here's Mount Fuji and around Tokyo, beyond Nagano. Nagano is an area that when I was applying to the JET program, I listed that as my top choice for placement. Two ways to use this. I can flip through the book like this, you know, when something pops out at me, like, you know, like that, not gonna, like a picture or just information, something like that, and I can, you know, go to this section, read a little bit about it, and, you know, it's listing some like breweries there, stores, you know, nature areas, shrines, shopping, just various little things there, and it just feels like a nice little intro to learning about something. So, you know, I find something I like and I can just learn a little bit more, kind of expand my knowledge of the area a little bit, and maybe just think of some more things that I'd like to do if I, you know, am able to go to this place. And even if I'm not, it's nice just to kind of plan in your head, plan a trip out, or just have things in general, like travel locations and things like that that you'd like to do if you ever get the chance to do. I think just having that type of stuff in your head and just having a little bit more details like you might find in here is really nice, and I think that helps you get closer to actually making these trips rather than just having like a vague notion of I want to travel in general. Another way you can use this book, if you already know an area that you're interested in, you can just look that up and go there. So, you know, Sapporo, that's another, this is my second choice that I put on my application. Sapporo's in the northern Japan in Hokkaido. It looks very pretty. It looks like they get a lot of snow. So I can look that up. I can go, you know, I want to learn more about Sapporo. You know, go here. I can see more about the area, you know, major cities, museums, little things like that. So it's just nice to look up, you know, Sapporo Beer Museum. You know, this is something I'd like to go to, although I don't think I've actually had Sapporo beer, but you know, that's one of the few Japanese beers that, you know, you commonly see even here in the US. 13 block long Central Park, Odori Koen. I know they have a lot of kind of major festivals of the area there. Like there's a, if I'm not mistaken, oh yeah, here it is right here, the Ice Festival, where there's a lot of like ice sculptures. Oh yeah, there it is. This is something I'd really like to see. I watch videos of this, you know, now and again, just to see what they do every year. And I can look at nearby areas, you know, here's beyond Sapporo, you know, smaller areas that are within, you know, a day trip distance from Sapporo. So if I'm planning a trip, or even if I'm planning, you know, to live there, which, you know, I might be, you know, I can just have kind of like a brief plan, just knowing what's around. Pokemon Adventures is a long-running manga series that I remember reading as a young kid, so it's been going on at least most of the time that Pokemon has existed. And I've read through the first series, original, you know, Generation 1 Pokemon, Red, Blue, and Green, and Yellow. They have Green, which was in Japan, Japanese version. They also have Yellow. So they have kind of four games in the manga, and you know, they'll come out, they'll have like a little series. Each one is roughly, and I think there's 6 or 7 for the series, at least the first one. I think they're all similar length. They're fun. It goes through kind of the story of the game. Your character is like your game character. So this is about, you know, X the character and Y the character. Or, you know, in the original ones that I've read through, you know, you have Red the character, his rival is Blue, and they're going through kind of the world of the games, but they all have their own original stories. So it's kind of set in the world of the games, it kind of follows those events, but it's different. You know, different elements are changed, different characters are given a lot more, they're expanded on more, just have some more, given some more time to develop, which is cool. I would recommend checking out this series if you like Pokemon. It's easy to get into. You can just buy one series, you know, just pick your favorite generation of games and buy that series. It's only going to be about 6 books. And it's nice to see, you know, all the Pokemon you like from that generation. You know, see how they integrate into the story, you know, a lot of characters that you like, and especially seeing characters just given some more development and things to do. Moon, Junji Ito book. This is Miranda's. I have not read through very much Junji Ito at all. It's an interesting art style, I think. I'm not too big on horror, especially like body horror, which, you know, he seems to have kind of a lot of in these. This one doesn't seem too gross from just skimming through, so maybe I can... Oh. Nope, she just took all of her skin off. Alright, well, I spoke too soon. Got Frog and Toad up next. You probably know Frog and Toad. It's a pretty popular children's book, at least where I am from. I always enjoyed it. It's just very simple stories. You know, they're for kids, but not simple in that the themes and the stories aren't related to real life things that everybody experiences in here, but just in a very to the point. But, you know, it kind of just deals with like friendship and even some kind of like, you know, darker themes, at least for things that maybe aren't in kids' books very much. Just kind of about like loneliness, sadness. You know, like here's a story where Toad's talking about his sad time of the day where he waits for mail to come, which makes him sad because he never gets any mail. So nobody sends him mail, so he waits for the mail and is sad about it. And then Frog goes home and he's like, I gotta go. He writes a letter to Toad. He gives it to the snail to deliver. The snail, you know, takes it to Toad's house. He finally gets a letter. They waited 4 whole days for him to get a letter. Anyway, I think the reason we have this specifically is because we have this, the Japanese translation of it. So I think it was just as a reference. Great Japanese book for adults trying to learn the language because it is, you know, simple. There's not a whole lot of words. There's only all very simple. The sentences are very short. There's not a lot of detail. The grammar is simple, you know, all that stuff. Great for kids and great for people learning a new language. I think it's interesting like this just to see books that I knew from my childhood in English and just rereading them. Hello, it's me editing this way too long video. It's taken me a long time to get through this footage, and the rest of what I have is all just going through photo books, which is a lot more of my own books. So I have a little bit more to say about that. I figured I would just split that off, put that in its own video, and kind of like finish the vlog out here. So anyway, I just wanted to make an ending to this and not just cut off the video in the middle, which is usually how I do it. Alright, we'll see you in the next one.